The first way to improve your sleep is to think about how to protect your eyes. There are certain wavelengths of light that will actually influence your brain and make you think that it's actually sunlight outside, and it will stop you sleeping. This wavelength of light will actually stop your brain from releasing a hormone called melatonin, and that is directly linked with falling asleep, that feeling of being drowsy. We all know the reality is that although people say don't use screens before bed, everyone uses screens before bed because we need to still stay in touch with people. We like to use our entertainment sources, which are all screen-based nowadays. Many people work into the night because you just have to sometimes. So if you really do have to use screens late at night before bed, about 1 to 2 hours before bed, and you can't avoid it, then you want to consider something like blue light glasses, which will stop those wavelengths that will stop your brain from producing the sleep hormone. Otherwise you won't start feeling sleepy, and then you will actually have a lot of difficulty going to sleep at night. Step 2 is to keep the same schedule, because the schedule is really important, but these days where we've got a lot of different things, we have so much going on that it's really hard to just be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go to bed at the same time every night and get up at the same time every morning. And if you're someone that thinks, oh, I need a lot of sleep and that's just my genetics, that's just how I am, what you might find is having a regular schedule means that you'll need less sleep, because you actually get higher sleep quality because your body gets used to that window of sleep in which it can make it really efficient. Another thing with the AM part of the schedule, the morning, is sometimes you might actually need to bring back your wake up time, especially if you find it hard to get up in the morning. Maybe you don't go to a job that you really love, so sometimes getting up an hour earlier if you can. I know the realities are different, especially if you work in something like healthcare. It can be really difficult to maintain a schedule, but sometimes getting up earlier means that you actually have, say, another hour where you can actually not just get up and start rushing straight out the door, like wolf down loads of food and then have to run and get in the car. And instead you'll have time to maybe do a bit of yoga, do a bit of exercise. You can even just chill and watch your favorite TV show with a coffee. Then your body gets used to actually getting up and enjoying the wake up process, rather than just hibernating in bed and being afraid to go and go like, oh, I've got to go to work today again. And when it comes to changing your schedule, you've really got to be patient with it. Some studies say that you can only change by about an hour a day. So if you've been getting up at 8 a.m. every day, or even 7, and you want to think, okay, I'll bring it back to 4 or 5 or something like that, I want a bit more time for myself before I go off to work, before 9 a.m, then be patient with it and keep going through the motions. And although you'll feel tired for the first few days, then you'll get used to it eventually. So tip number 3 is actually about your temperature in your room and your body. So if you've ever got up in the middle of the night and thought, oh, I'm absolutely drenched with sweat because I didn't realize I was that hot, when you go asleep, unfortunately your body goes into like an auto regulation of your temperature, and it's not necessarily, in my opinion, the best at doing that. What it'll do is just profusely sweat if you're overheating, until you get to a certain point where your body goes, okay, no more, and then we wake up, and that'll obviously be disturbing your restful time. So try not to go to bed with all the heating on and things like that, because you'll heat up much quicker than you think, even if it's like a chilly winter night. And if you live in somewhere that's a little bit warmer, or it's the summer, then consider just a little blanket, because you'll probably regulate your temperature much more easily doing that, rather than having a big thick duvet on just because you're chilly at the moment. That can really improve the efficiency and the quality of your sleep. Even if you get the same amount, you might find that you're so much more refreshed the next day. And it's a bit paradoxical, but before sleep you want to have a nice warm shower, and that will relax your body, relax all your muscles, and that will actually help you get into that sleep state. But you do want that cool temperature, that ambient temperature, no heavy blankets during that sleep. And studies actually show that it's that hot to cooling phase. Even though a warm shower is relaxing, a warm bath is relaxing, it's the cooling phase which actually sends you off to sleep and really assists with that hormone build-up, which helps you drift off nicely. Therefore, give a little bit of consideration to the kind of clothing you wear. Don't wear big thick pajamas and socks and everything when you're trying to sleep, because you will overheat and you will have disrupted sleep. Whether you wake up or not, your sleep quality will plummet. Tip number 4 is quite opinion based, so that is to actually have a device that will track your sleep. Obviously a watch is the go-to, but you can get certain apps on your phone which you can just lay on the bed and it will just move as you move in the night, and it will track whether you have a nice deep restful sleep or whether you actually have a really disruptive night. And that kind of eliminates that bias of whether you think you had a good day, bad day, because every day obviously life changes and you can have big fluctuations in your sleep quality. but you might find that there's actually a pattern. Maybe it's a certain day of the week. Maybe there's a certain car that comes past or a noise. There's always an alarm where I live, and it goes off at a very specific time in the night. And although they might seem insignificant in the moment, you potentially don't realize how much of an effect that's actually having on you. I know you don't have to get some £1,000 watch, high-end rubbish, unless you can afford it and you want to treat yourself to it, that's fine. Personally, I like a Garmin because I do a lot of sports, and it also has that sleep tracking function which helps me track where perhaps there's always a certain time of night where I have a terrible moment and I come out of my deep sleep. So it helps you identify where the issues are, and once you solve them, it can be life-changing. Sleep is huge. It can really affect everything within your life, your productivity, because of your emotions and your concentration, how clear you can think. So tip number 5 after that is then to consider things like white noise. It doesn't mean you have to put the fan on and waste loads of electric or anything like that. It could just be a little speaker. Any speaker you can just hook up to the Bluetooth of your phone, anything like that, and you can just put on white noise, and it can really relax you and just cut out those little irritations. Like I said, the alarm in my life, it can just cut those out, and then it will never disturb me because I've got that constant low level noise. But of course, some people just completely don't want any noise. I never really used to, but I've kind of got used to it now. Definitely not a crutch that I use, but it's something that has now stimulated my brain to know when it's time to go to bed and when it's time to finally drift off and just relax and stop thinking about everything. I'm going to add a little 6th bonus tip in just because it's a bit of a cliche, but it's so significant. There are a few nuances to it, is to exercise to a significant level that you actually feel quite exhausted afterwards, not flat out dead and you've torn all your muscles apart just because you want to sleep well, because that will probably make you feel a lot worse. But just pushing yourself for a little bit of cardio, maybe you don't do any at the moment, but just pushing yourself beyond your general limits when you're doing a little bit of cardio, that can really help you burn that last bit of energy of the day and help you switch off. And I'm sure everyone at some point has done some sort of significant workout, or perhaps you've had a very long day, maybe you've been walking around the city a lot in one day, and you all know that it really helps you sleep. You just absolutely drop off because you're done. But if you imagine that on a regular basis, how great your life will become in terms of productivity and feeling energetic and being able to focus because you've had that really rewarding sleep and that deep rest. So in summary, protect your eyes, think about the light that's going into your brain because it will influence the hormones which will help you have nice deep sleep. Try and maintain a nice schedule because you want to wake up and go to bed at the same time. Your body gets used to it, your brain knows when to release those hormones that I mentioned. Keep it nice and cool in there, have a nice warm shower before bed, but then also let yourself cool down because that is the cooling down process which helps you fall asleep. Consider the little devices that you can have to help you track your sleep, then you can find little issues if there are any and solve them, and it can be really life-changing because obviously sleep has such a massive impact on your brain function, your emotions, your general productivity. So the littlest change can be really significant. Then consider white noise sources just to block out those little inconveniences which you might not even know are there, like with me and the alarm that goes off. And then get a nice workout in to make sure you're just tired enough so you don't have any pent-up energy as you're trying to fall asleep, which is obviously counterproductive to getting into that nice deep rest. So I hope at least one of these tips will help you, and I wish you a good night of nice deep rest.